Hi, there are already a lot of really nice fonts out there that you can use. However, sometimes you might want to have something a little bit different. Making your own font is quite possible, even though it is not always that easy. In this video I am dealing with taking handwritten letters on a paper, making a scalable font that can be used in programs using fonts. Letters in a font that is used in a computer are images that are shown on the screen as a pattern of pixels. There are two main ways of storing images in a computer file. One way is to store information on the pixel pattern. That is what you do in a BMP, a JPEG, a GIF, or a PNG. These are raster or bitmap images. You can make a font using this kind of image format. That will, however, work well only in the one size that you have originally saved the image in. The second main way to store an image is using a vector format. A vector file saves the image as geometric figures, defined by points with lines between them, lines or curves. Shapes made up of such lines can be filled with color. Example of a vector format is SVG. Vector images works very well with scaling up or scaling down. Making a scalable font, you will want to work with vector type images. There are different programs for making fonts. Those programs can be more or less complicated or advanced. There are expensive programs for professional users that can do quite a lot of different things. And there are simpler programs with fewer tools that might even be available for free. Now, I am certainly not a professional user. The things I do not know about making fonts could fill volumes. When I am making a font that is only a small part of something else that I want to do, such as making a game or a comic, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on making the font, but I still want it to look at least somewhat good. If you are good at making vector-style images, that will be a great advantage if you want to make a font. Most tools for making fonts that I have seen are based on making vector images of the letters in the program. However, I'm not very good at making vector images by hand. It takes forever for me and doesn't often look very good. I don't think I would have a consistent look to the different letters, and consistency is something that you really want to have in a font. I would do a lot better working with raster images. So I need a workaround for that problem. This is what I want to do. I want to draw the letters on a piece of paper and scan the paper to an image format, or I would draw the images directly in a graphic image editor. In both cases I would end up with a raster image. I then want to use a tool to transform the raster image to a vector image, and then I want to be able to import the vector images into a font making tool. I want to make a font useful for comic book lettering. I started with 2 pages of copy machine papers. I drew a couple of guidelines on one of the papers, placed the second one on top of the first, and then draw the letters with a felt tip pen. I scanned the page and saved it as a TIFF file. I then used the GIMP image editor and opened the image in that. I made the background transparent. I'm not sure if I actually needed to do that, but I did it. I then make a copy of each letter, one by one. I'm using Inkscape, which is a freeware vector editor, to transform the letters to a vector format. I can paste the image that I have copied from GIMP directly into Inkscape. I use the trace bitmap function in Inkscape to transform the bitmap image to a vector image, and then I save that image as a SVG file. So I will at the end have an SVG file for each of the letters and other signs that are going into the font. To make the font, I will now be using a font making tool, and this will be an online tool. The tool is called Glyphr Studio. An important feature with this tool that made me choose to use this tool is that it have the option to import SVG files. So I start by opening the Glyphr Studio, and we do now have a couple of options. You can start making a font from scratch, or you could open an already existing font in the format OTF, TTF or SVG to make adaptations in that font, or you can open a Glyphr Studio project file. The project files is a way to save your work during the process, and it is always a good idea to make saves while you are working at a project, not least if you are working with an online tool. Well, we want to start a new font, and to do that we enter the name of the font. You can always change that name later in the tool. When we open the tool, we will have a number of different tabs available. There are two of these tabs that we will be using most of the time. It is the tabs Glyph Edit and the tab Import SVG. And we are going to start in the tab Import SVG. You start with choosing the letter or sign you want to import. You drag and drop the SVG file for that letter or sign and push the Import SVG button. We will now move to the Glyph Edit tab. You need to start once again by making sure that you have the correct letter or sign chosen. I had some trouble with my SVG files, and to handle that I needed to start with opening the path option. You should have one path for the outline of the letter and one path for each opening inside the outline. So the letter C should have only one path, the letter A should have two paths, and the letter B should have three paths. When I opened the path option, I found a large number of paths, maybe up to 40 of them. That was, as far as I can understand, because I had some clutter on the original paper version, and that carried through even to the import of the SVG file to the font tool. So I needed to start with identifying the paths that I should keep, the path that I needed, and then I deleted the other paths. When I had only the necessary paths left, I positioned those paths and resized them to fit in the area for the letter or sign. In the tool there are a couple of guidelines to help with the positioning. You have a baseline at the bottom and an ascent line at the top, and they show what is the bottom and the top of the available space for the letter. You also have a left sideline that gives you the left position. The right sideline is determined by how you resize the letter. I have kept it so that most letters are about the same width. Some letters, I, J, and T, are somewhat slimmer, and M is a bit wider. When you want to do something with a letter with more than one path in it, it can be a good thing to be able to select all paths. You select a path by clicking inside it. You can add to selected paths by holding down Ctrl while clicking on the other patches. When we are happy with this letter, we move on to the next one and keep repeating this until we have everything in place. For this font, I have not wanted to have different looking lowercase letters. I want the lowercase letters to look the same as the uppercase letters, just slightly smaller. So I have copied the uppercase letter and pasted it in the slot for the lowercase letter and resized it. After I was done doing this, I found a function under the tab Global Actions that you can use for an all caps font. If I had found that earlier, that could have saved me a bit of work, I think. Okay, when we have filled in all the letters and other signs that you want to have in the font, you are ready to save the font, and we do have a tab for saving the font. You have options to save the font as an OTF, Open Type font, or a SVG. The OTF font format will probably be most useful to you. There is obviously a lot more that could be said about using the Glyphr Studio, but this is all that I have time for this time. So for now, bye.